Getting a job as a software developer. This is obviously a hot topic because people who go to school or get a certification or take a course online, their ultimate goal 99% of the time is to get a job as a software developer. I'm going to take you through how to actually get a software development job off the top. First things first, learn software development. I think that's fairly obvious given one, y'all are actively doing that right now if not already done it. And then what do you want to do next? Well, you want to build up your own personal brand, if you will. Not necessarily posting videos or online or even blogging, but something on GitHub. Make sure you have your code on GitHub, a portfolio of sorts. Speaking of a portfolio, if you can create a website and put all of your projects, whether they be terminal applications or websites or iOS applications, what have you, throw those on your portfolio website, and then you can show that you created your portfolio website and everything on it. School. While a lot of employers want to see that you have a degree, it's not always the case, it's not always necessary. More often than not, what I would personally like to see is that you can actually do the job at hand. I know plenty of people who graduated with a computer science degree who didn't even know how to code. And I'm not making stuff up here. There are literally people who I was in a group project with my senior year, first semester, senior year, second semester. I knew they were also in their senior years. They didn't even know how to code. Like the basics, maybe the basics, but if you said, hey, build a hangman application or build something to spit out in terminal console, they wouldn't even know where to start because maybe they built upon previous applications or they just skidded by, they paid someone to do their work, they copied someone else's work, what have you. That's what it seemed like they did because somehow they made it to their senior year, but they didn't know how to code. So while a degree, sure, that can get your foot in the door, get you through a filter at many different companies, I think Google just recently said, we don't care if you have a computer science degree or not, just show that you can do the work, pass our interview process, like apply. You're not gonna get thrown in the trash can, your resume, if you say, hey, I don't have a computer science degree. And if it wasn't obvious, this is coming from somebody who went to computer science college. Like I have a computer science degree. So I'm not just one of those people who don't have a computer science degree or don't have a college degree, so I bash the college degrees. I have a college degree. I think it was very helpful. It was very helpful for me to get to where I am today in many aspects of life, but I don't think it's necessary. The overall idea here is that you want to have enough information to put on your resume, your portfolio, your GitHub links, your projects that you've worked on in the past. If you don't have any internships or work history, maybe this is what you're watching this video for, is in order to get a software development internship, well, then at least you have maybe college to put on there or boot camp to put on there. Portfolio to put on there, like I mentioned before. GitHub, that's what you want to have. You want to have something to show on your resume. That way you have something to show a potential employer. So you have your personal brand, whether it's famous brand or personal, GitHub, what have you, that you can show off to a potential employer. You put it on your resume, you apply. But not only do you apply, if you're wanting to work at a particular company, you suit that resume for the particular job at hand. Maybe you're applying for a Java developer position. Obviously, I'm going to highlight all of the programs I wrote in Java, or even C++, or the like. Or if I'm applying for an iOS development position, obviously I want to highlight my iOS applications, things I wrote in Objective-C or Swift. Notice I'm using the word highlight. You want to highlight those. Those are, if you want to put it in your mind, those are what's going to be in bold. That's what you want the potential employer to see, to show that you can actually do the job that they're wanting you to do. And then you can throw in for the iOS development position, some of your terminal applications that you wrote in Java or C#. And then for the Java position, you can put in some of your iOS apps rather. That way you can show what you've actually done. You also want to do the same thing with skills. Maybe you have skills in Java, C++, C#, iOS development, Android development, this, that, Sketch, Adobe Design, whatever it is. You don't want to just throw all of that on your resume and see what sticks. You want to read the job listing in which you're applying for. You could be applying for 5 different jobs. You want to make sure you have 5 different resumes, one for each of those jobs, and word your skills similar to what they have. And mind you, I'm not telling you to lie on your resume, I'm telling you to specify your skills for the job listing. If the job listing has 8 bullet points that are along the lines of ability to work in Microsoft Office, or proficient in Microsoft Office, proficient with Java, or drawing a blank on what else would be listed there, but you know the 8 points I'm talking about. I haven't looked at a job listing in a very long time, but you know what I'm talking about. They have 8 bullet points of things that they would like for you to know, but you don't know all 8, maybe you know 4. So what you want to do, you don't want to say, well, you know, I'm okay with this, I'm okay with that. If you know 4, then list the 4 as your skills somewhere on your resume for them to see and word it in the same manner that they worded theirs. So you're not putting down all 8 because you don't know all 8, you only know 4, so you're putting 4. You're not saying anything about the others. Okay, great. So now you understand what you need to do for your resume. You apply, you apply, you apply, you apply, different resumes, of course. Now hopefully that'll lead to them emailing you back and inviting you for a phone interview. Every single one I've gone through, interviews that is, this is kind of how it's gone. I did talk about in a recent video about how it was very untraditional, unconventional, how I got my first software engineering job, but something I didn't highlight is the fact that I had 2 other offers. I've gone through 2 other interview processes at the time of going through this unique experience in getting my first software engineering job. And I had 2 offers, I turned them down because I wanted to work at this company. So I've been through those 2. And then I've had 2 or 3 different internships, computer science internships. So I've went through those interviews. I had 2 other ones that one didn't get an offer, other one did get an offer, but this other offer was better. So I've gone through the ringer a couple times. So email back, hopefully phone interview. This phone interview, every time I've gotten it, is with an HR person, human resources. What they're going to do, 9 times out of 10 I'll say, because I don't want to say always. People are always like, well, my experience was a little different. My experience was always, they talk about you, general questions, and what you put on your resume. I remember I would list projects on my resume, C++ projects, Java projects, something related to the job listing as we spoke about earlier, and they would ask me about different aspects of that application that I built, the project that I worked on. They asked me about some of my computer science classes, for the internships that is. They talked about my internships for the job interviews I would go through, and they would just talk about the information that I gave them. Which brings us full circle to don't lie on your job resume, because 1, that's unethical and just wrong. 2, you're gonna get exposed, to say the least. Now, after the phone interview, what would be ideal is if you don't hear back in 2 or 3 days, send a follow-up email to the HR person you spoke with. Say, hey, you could do this the day after or even the day of. Say, hey, it was wonderful talking to you. Just a generic follow-up email expressing how interested you are in the job a little bit. Just say, we had a great conversation. I'm glad to learn more about the company, which reminds me, in that phone interview, you want to ask about the company. Express a little bit of the knowledge that you've done. Make sure you show that you've researched the company if they don't ask about it already, because they probably will. And then ask a little bit more about the company so it shows that you're interested in learning. Now, I shouldn't have to tell you this, because if I tell you this and you're only doing this because I told you to, then you aren't genuinely interested in learning about the company. But chances are that you're applying to this company not just to get a job, but because you like that company and you want to get a job. So express what you like. Express that why you like this company, why you applied to this company, and ask questions to learn a little bit more because you're genuinely interested in the company. And after the phone interview, after the follow-up email, there's a few different ways that this can go. I'm trying to remember here. More often than not, I would get some sort of email back saying, let's move forward with this, or you don't get an email back, or you get an email back saying, we decided to go with someone else, whatever. Just hope for an email back. If you don't get an email back within a week, me, the way I am, I'm gonna send them another email a week after. Say, hey, just wanna make sure my last email got to you, make sure it's a thread off of your previously sent email, and just kind of touch base with them, see where it stands. But then hopefully you'll get an email back, and they will want to set up a web conference interview or an in-person interview. Hopefully that is the next step, is an in-person interview. And this will typically be the coding interview. You're gonna be sitting in a room with more than likely 3 people. In fact, every single time I've done an interview like this, it has been 3 people. It's all been a part of the team in which I would work, as well as the HR person. So it'd be 2 people from the team and the HR person that I spoke to previously. This, you get a little bit of a repeat what you did on the phone interview, because you're talking to 2 people who've never met you, never talked to you. So you're kind of summarizing what you talked about in the phone interview with the 2 new people, and the HR person will jump in and ask a little bit of what they've already asked, so you can explain that to the 2 people in which you would be working with, the 2 other developers on the team, the tech lead, senior software engineer, junior developer, and who you'd be equal with, maybe the person you're taking their job. Regardless, this in-person interview, like I said, basic questions, and then you go into the technicals. This is where you're really gonna have to know the knowledge of what you've put on your resume, because while you can maybe get over on the HR person, the dev team, the people who actually do this for a living, they're gonna know if you're BSing them or not, or whether you've actually used that framework, actually use that tool, actually know what you're talking about when you say I've built this terminal console using Java or terminal application using Java, they're gonna know because this is what they do for a living. Now, to prepare for this in-person interview, the coding portion of it, there are many different ways to go about it. Number one recommendation, hop on the internet. I'm going to refrain from saying Google because a lot of people are like, you should use DuckDuckGo. Just use a search engine that you like, your preferred search engine. Just search on the internet about this company, especially if it's a bigger company. Google, one of the FANG companies. Maybe it's a bigger company in your local area, and you can actually get a better, more specific understanding of the technical questions, the coding questions that they're going to ask in the interview. So before you go to the interview, you know what questions they're going to ask, so you should probably study it. You want to make sure that you are studying for that specific coding interview. If they don't have the specifics online, maybe they're a smaller company, maybe you'll get lucky and they don't ask you any coding questions. If they don't ask you any coding questions, well, then that will be a seemingly easy interview. You just kind of talk about what you've done, about yourself, about your fit with the company, so on and so forth. However, it is highly recommended by me, at the very least, to prepare regardless of whether or not you think they're going to ask you any coding questions. Go do popular coding questions, whether it be at Algo Expert or somewhere else. Do it, and when you do it, make sure you learn, you understand it, because when you're in that coding portion of the interview, the technical questions, you want to make sure you're able to explain. You don't want to just sit down, especially if this is, in-house, whiteboard, whatever. You don't want to just sit down and no, you don't want to do that. What you want to do is explain what you're doing and why you're doing it. A lot of times they're looking at how you go about solving the questions more so than the actual solution to the question. And maybe explaining what you're doing while you're doing it isn't the best way to go about it. What you can do is say, all right, I'm gonna sit down here, I'm gonna try to figure all of this out, and then you go ahead and explain what you did and why you did it to them after you did it. So you have, you have a little presentation. You can say, well, I did this because of that, did that because of this. They'll ask you questions. Well, the reason I didn't go with that route is because I went with this route. Obviously, I'm talking in very vague terms, but that's the idea. What I'm trying to say is with the coding portion of the interview, don't just do it and say, here's the solution. Explain why you did the solution, why you did it, how you did it. They'll ask you some questions about it, and then go from there. Something I almost forgot, but is very important. When you go into the in-person interview, make sure you bring a few things. A notebook and a pen or pencil, whatever you want, along with a manila folder with 5 to 10 copies of your resume that you created specific for that company. That way, when you walk in, you can pass your resume to each person in the room. Maybe they said, all right, there's gonna be 3 people in the room interviewing you. If that's the case, bring 5. Maybe there's gonna be 5 people in the room interviewing you. If that's the case, bring 8. Make sure you always bring more. 1, so you can have one for yourself and see exactly what they're talking about if they reference your resume, as well as in case the tech lead, maybe he wasn't going to be here today, or maybe he was too busy and he decided to sit in on the interview with you. If they said, oh, well, there's only going to be 3 and then there ends up being 4 and you only bring 3, well, then you're in a bind. It shows a little bit more initiative that you brought your own resumes, even though every single time I've experienced this, I didn't have to pass out my resumes because they had already printed out enough for everyone in the room. But regardless, if they don't print out the resumes, well, 1, you're prepared for them, or 2, if they have already printed out your resumes, you're showing that you're a prepared person, someone that takes initiative by bringing the resumes to the interview yourself. Okay, cool. There may be some variables within that in-person interview that you may not know about, but that is the overall gist of it. Hopefully it went well. Even if it didn't go well, what you want to do within the next day or 2 is send a follow-up email just like you did for the phone interview. This time, while you have the HR person's email, hopefully maybe you have the other people who are in the interview's email as well. That would be ideal. And send all of them grouped together, CC'd, an email expressing, thank you for meeting with me. The interview, I believe it went very well. I had a great time learning more about the company and meeting y'all. I feel like I would be a great fit. You can sell yourself a little bit if you want in this email, but the overall idea of this email is to just, follow up, touch base, say how appreciative you are, and kind of kiss ass, but also just, express the actual feelings about how you had about the interview. Maybe you have a question or 2 about for them, and that's when you want to ask that. So follow-up email after the in-person interview, touch base. It shows initiative. Again, you'll be good to go. Now, hopefully, best case scenario is that you get a job offer. Now, the job offer may not come right now. Maybe you have to do another series of in-person interview, phone interview, whatever. I've never gone beyond a single in-person interview to get a job or a job offer, but the different companies do different ways. So for the sake of me being accurate and talking about things that I've actually experienced, job offer comes at this time. So let's assume that you get an email and you get a job offer. Or instead of an email, they may even call you with this job offer. Now this is where things will get a little bit more, how do I say it? Involved, specific. Don't know what word I'm looking for, but you're gonna be talking about salaries, you're gonna be talking about benefits, you're gonna make sure that you're happy and that they're happy. They're not gonna agree to anything that'll make them unhappy, so as much as you can possibly get, obviously that'll benefit you the most. And notice that I mentioned benefits, because a lot of people, especially when they're young, they don't realize benefits, how important they are, how expensive they are. So when it comes to salary and benefits, the job offer at hand, you wanna make sure that you understand the salary. You wanna agree upon a price, negotiate with them. Maybe they ask you for a range, 60 to 70,000 as a junior developer, that's what I'm expecting. It'll vary depending on what company you're applying for. You may have information online on what you can check. It may depend on where you live, what type of company, what industry, banking, military or government, maybe it's tech space, Silicon Valley. It's all gonna be variable. This is where you're gonna be really getting into the research of your area and what you actually want, what you need to live and thrive, and what you think is fair. That's in terms of salary. Now in terms of benefits, you wanna make sure that they have all the benefits. Retirement, see if they match your retirement fund up to 3% or whatever it may be. Vacation time, how does vacation time work? Do they give you unlimited vacation? Do they actually want you to take as much vacation as unlimited? Obviously not, but you understand a lot of the unlimited thing, that's a whole psychology thing. Well, if you wanna climb up the ladder, then you won't be taking any vacation. Or if you want a good quality of life, then, and you wanna do well at your job, because breaks are good for your job, that's why we have weekends, then you will take vacation. Or maybe they say, okay, well you have 5 weeks. That's 25 days for sick days, vacation days, and holidays. All of those, you can split those up however you want, take them whenever you want, they don't roll over to the next year, and that is how it sits. You have a sick day here, okay, that's fine. You wanna take a 5-week vacation here, okay, that's fine. You wanna work on Thanksgiving, hey, if that's what you wanna do, then you have that day to spend. And of course, there's the health benefits. How much do they pay for you? Do they pay for anything of your spouse or kids, or how does that work? This will be health, this will be dental. Just talk to someone you know, an adult, your parents, a brother, sibling. Talk to someone who has a job, benefits, see what they have, see how they have it. If that's pretty good, then maybe that's what you want for yourself, for your company, for your family, whatever. Just make sure that you're negotiating the salary for what you think is fair. And if they don't have very good benefits, they don't have any benefits, then maybe that salary needs to bump up 10K a year or 15K a year, what have you. You need to make sure that it's fair for you and that you're not, well, hey, this company, they're offering me 80K to work a year, but their benefits kind of suck. But this company over here, they're paying me $65,000 a year, but the benefits are absolutely amazing. Their work-life balance is amazing, which reminds me, when it comes to, you have salary, you have benefits, everything we just talked about, you also have the amount of work that you do. Because all of these companies, they're gonna operate differently. Maybe you have to be there 8 to 5 because they don't give you a paid lunch. Or maybe you're there 9 to 5, maybe you get to choose your hours. You're an early bird, you wanna get in 7 o'clock, leave 3 o'clock, you get a paid lunch. That may be your cup of tea. Or maybe they have set hours where you have to work 8 to 5, unpaid lunch. They're offering you 70K, same benefits as the other company that you can pick your hours, flexible hours, and you get a paid lunch. So there's all those different variables that come into play. Maybe some companies, they say, well, kind of got to get, 40 hours. That's our average, 40 hours per week. That's typically what we work. If you work 12 hours or 10 hours one day, then we only work 6 hours the next. Typically it doesn't work that way, but you get what I'm trying to say. There's going to be other companies who they consistently work 55, 60-hour weeks. All of this needs to be taken into consideration when it comes to salary, and really salary specific. That's the main thing, because if you have a poor work-life balance, you better be getting paid a lot more. If you don't have very good benefits, you better get paid a lot more. Can't take those vacation days? Well, you better get paid a lot more. There are different tactics to negotiations. Just know that whatever you agree upon, you agreed upon. You can't be upset with the amount that they offer you or that they are paying you. Because if you agree upon it, then that's you telling them that you're happy with this. Or maybe there's some questions that you can ask, hey, when do you normally do, do you do a 1-year evaluation of my work? Then we can discuss a potential raise. Do you give raises after, how does that work? Talk about their process and how you can grow throughout the company, and word it that way. Don't say, how can I get paid more money? Say, how can I progress in the company? Because, got a family, I want to provide for them as much as possible. Do we do a 1-year evaluation? And maybe, if you see that I'm doing a great job, a phenomenal job, you give me a really good pay raise. If I'm doing just okay, then a little bit of a pay raise. Just ask on the process. Hopefully after watching this video, you do all of these practices, you go use Algo Expert, wink wink, and you have 3 or maybe even 5 job offers for you to choose from. Or maybe you don't, then you have to go back and reevaluate what went wrong along the way. Send a follow-up email asking why you didn't get an offer for the job, see what you can improve. That'll show initiative. Maybe you can apply to that job next year. You have a little bit better skills. They remember you because you said, hey, how can I improve? It's always a good sign. Or maybe you just take that information that they give you. Hopefully they do respond and give you some information. Well, maybe you could have done a little bit better there. We found someone more experienced, or your social skills were lacking. That would be a weird thing to say in an email, but you get the idea. And then you can use that to apply to 5 other jobs, go through this process 5 more times, and hopefully you'll get a job then. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more like it, be sure to hit the subscribe button because I post weekly, twice a week, sometimes even 3 times a week if I'm feeling froggy. Maybe you found this video informative, you like this specific video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up because this is all for developers. We know how the YouTube algorithm loves engagement on YouTube videos, views, engagement in terms of likes, even dislikes, don't hit the dislike button please, and comments. That helps push it to people like you, more people who are interested in software development. That'll help the channel grow and I'd really appreciate it. Now good luck with getting yourself some jobs. I'll see you on the next one.